Thank you for joining us. I'm Michelle Bukai, the Indianapolis Jewish Federation's Israel and Overseas Director. Before we begin, I just want to go over a few Zoom tips to ensure a good experience for everyone. Please click on mute to reduce background noise. I promise everyone will have an opportunity to talk later on. And now about how you're viewing the program. Zoom has two different views: gallery view, where you see multiple participants, and speaker view, which automatically displays the speaker. You can switch between the two views. If you're on a computer, the option to switch between views is located in the top right corner of your screen. If you're on a phone or tablet, you can toggle between speaker view and a smaller gallery view by swiping left and right on your screen. Speaker view shows the person speaking in a large image and all other participants in smaller windows. Throughout the program, we're going to highlight speakers and share screens. So you might want to go to the top right corner and click speaker view. We're also going to be sharing videos and some translations through the share screen feature. If you're on a computer, when something is shared, you'll see your screen split into two sides. One side with a shared video or text, the other side with the faces of the other participants. In this split screen, you can control how large or small the speaker and the shared screen are. This is done by placing your cursor between where the shared content meets the participant video and dragging the little vertical bar that appears to the left or to the right. This is useful for enlarging videos and words displayed on the screen. If you're on a phone or tablet, you can do it by swiping left or right. And now we begin. Today we commemorate Yom HaZikaron, Israel Memorial Day. Since the Day of Declaration in May 1948, Israel has been fighting for the right to live with peace and security. On Yom HaZikaron, the entire nation remembers its debt and expresses eternal gratitude to its sons and daughters who gave their lives for the achievement of the independence and the country's continued existence. As a result of the many acts of terror against Israeli civilians, the parliament decided to include the memory of those who were victims of terror, together with those who died fighting them. In Israel, Yom HaZikaron begins throughout the country with a sound of sirens proclaiming a 2-minute silence during which all activity ceases. Flags are flown at half-mast and memorial ceremonies are held all over the country. Our ceremony this year will highlight the two Israeli Shinshinyot at the Glick JCC in Indianapolis, Einav Elchayani Perez and Maya Hirschberg. Shinshin means emissary who is volunteering a year of community service, which they do after graduating from high school and before entering the IDF, the Israel Defense Force. I'd like to invite Einav Elchayani Perez to share her thoughts about Yom HaZikaron.
Good evening, everyone. I am Einav Elchayani Perez, one of the Israeli emissaries, Shinshinyot, in Indianapolis this year. Since I remember myself, Yom HaZikaron was surrounded by a big pride mixed with massive pain. It is because of my family's connection to Israel and to the IDF, and also because we are carrying a tragedy of losing a family member during a war. This year, as a part of my shlichut, Yom HaZikaron's meaning gets even deeper. During the last few years, I took part in my high school's traditional memorial ceremony, a military ceremony that is based on calling the names of all 303 alumni who have fallen during their service. Last year, I was honored to lead the ceremony under the Israeli flag. I remember that back then, I stood with the flag in my hand and I decided that next year in my life will be all about standing for Israel. Standing here today make me think about the difference of experience this day in Israel and in diaspora and what is my part today. In Hebrew, there is a phrase that said, דברים שרואים מכאן, לא רואים משם. Things we see from this place are not noticeable from far. Until I came to Indianapolis, I wasn't aware of the big impact and influence that Israel has on the Jewish community in the diaspora, and the big support that the Jewish community abroad gives to Israel. This day is all about shlichut, contribution and sacrifice for the country, for Israel. The active part that the soldiers take to protect Israel is to give Am Yisrael a safe place to be. Unfortunately, the reality in Israel is not easy, and soldiers sacrifice their life for this goal of keeping us safe. As a daughter and a sister of IDF captains, I'm familiar with being worried of them in certain times. And as those who are being apart from them and distance, we have only one thing to do: respect them, pray for the soldier, defend the dignity, and commemorate the life of those who are no longer with us. Please join me in watching a video of last year's ceremony at my high school, the Hebrew Reality School in Haifa. You will see me and my classmate in the commercial raising and lowering of the flag. I'm standing in the right corner, and here's the video.
המסדר יעבור לנוח. עמוד, נוח. להורדת הדגל, לחצי התורן. המסדר יעבור לדום. מסדר, דום.
In the next video, you'll see how Israel marks its day of remembrance with a 2-minute siren. As we mentioned, the whole country comes to a stop, and together they honor their fallen soldiers and victims of terror. Please rise, as you're able, for the sounding of the siren. We are honored to invite Rabbi Dennis Sasso of Congregation Bethel Tzedek to recite the Yizkor prayer and light a candle. If you would like to join in, please prepare your candle at this time. We'll also screen the English translation of the prayer, so be sure you're in speaker view and drag your cursor so both Rabbi Sasso and the words are large on your screen. Rabbi, unmute.
Thank you, Michelle. Before I recite the Yizkor memorial prayer, I'd like to share with you a personal word. Just before we came together for this evening's observance, we received notice that Michelle's mother passed away just a few hours ago this afternoon, and she has still chosen to participate in the program with us this evening because she says it feels appropriate to honor those who are not with us anymore on this special day. And as my sister-in-law described it, said Michelle, my mother's soul is rising up towards heaven, surrounded by thousands of flickering Yizkor candles throughout Israel and Jewish communities around the world, including here in Indianapolis. So we begin by extending our condolences to Michelle and to Gadi and to the entire family on the death of her mother, Ruth Ellen Nasberg, Ruth Bat Leah ve'Aryeh. Baruch Dayan ha'emet, Yehi zichrona livracha. May her memory be a blessing as we remember the fallen of the state of Israel, the heroes and the martyrs of our people. Yizkor Am Yisrael et banav uvnotav הנאמנים והאמיצים חיילי צבא ההגנה לישראל וכל לוחמי המחתרות וחטיבות הלוחמים במערכות העם ואנשי קהילות המודיעין, הביטחון, המשטרה ושירות בתי הסוהר אשר חירפו נפשם במלחמה על תקומת ישראל וכל שנרצחו בארץ ומחוצה לה בידי מרצחים מארגוני הטרור. יזכור ישראל ויתברך בזרעו ויאבל על זיו העלומים בחמדת הגבורה וקדושת הרצון ומסירות הנפש של הנספים במערכה הכבדה. יהיו חללי מערכות ישראל, עטורי הניצחון, חתומים בלב ישראל. Ledor, Dor. We invite you to light your memorial candle at this time.
Thank you, Rabbi. I appreciate that. Oh, and I was supposed to say that to go to gallery view to see everyone lighting their candles. I'm sorry, my mistake. And now I'd like to invite Maya Hirschberg to share her thoughts about Yom HaZikaron.
Good evening. I am Maya Hirschberg, and I am proud to be serving as a Shinshinyot in Indianapolis. Until this year, the fallen soldiers were the big ones, our big brothers and sisters, youth movement counselors, that we heard about in stories and admired from afar. Now that I am getting close to joining the army, this day gets a new meaning. It is closer than ever. Now, the brave soldiers fighting for the security of our country are my classmates and closest friends. Each and every one of us is contributing to our country in a different way. Some are serving in the army, Some are volunteering in other gap year programs in Israel, and we, the Shinshinyot, are here trying to strengthen the bond between Israel and you, the Jewish communities around the world. Israel still needs to protect herself with a strong army made up of us, high school graduates from Israel and the diaspora. This year has taught me so much, but mainly it made me realize that we can never stop fighting for a better future for all. As I look for new ways to connect to Yom HaZikaron, I always come back to music. For me, songs that tell stories about fallen soldiers and historic events help me form a deep connection to my country and to this state. I was fortunate enough to go to school in the Academy of Music and Dance High School in Jerusalem. My teachers taught me that by combining music, history, and a deep love for Israel, we can truly commemorate the memory of fallen soldiers. Last year, my classmates and I, for our memorial service, chose to reimagine a couple of songs. We listened to them and found our connection to them. The video you are about to see is a part of that project. My talented friends are performing the song Ma'avarech, What Shall I Bless Him, in a COVID lockdown unique way. This song talks about the blessings that a child should receive in order to be happy and live a long life. The child is blessed with so many different qualities. The only thing he isn't blessed with is a long life.
הצליחו גם ללמוד את עוצמת הפלדה ורגליו הרוקדות את מסע הדרכים ושפתיו השרות את מקצב הפקודה. נתתי לו כל שאפשר לי לתת, שיר וחיוך ורגליים לרקוד, ויד מעודנת ולב מרטט, ומה אברך לך עוד? מה אברך לו במה יבורך, זה הילד האלם הרך. מה אברך לו במה יבורך, זה הילד האלם הרך. הנער הזה עכשיו הוא מלאך, לא עוד יבורכו, לא עוד יבורך, אלוהים אלוהים אלוהים. לו אך ברכת לו
That song has got to be one of the most powerful on Yom HaZikaron. And thank you for sharing it, Maya. We're now honored to invite Cantor Giora Sharon to recite the El Maleh Rachamim prayer. We'll also highlight the English translation, so be sure that you're in speaker view and drag your cursors to both Cantor Sharon and the words are large on your screen. Cantor?
Speaker.
Maleh Rachamim Shocher Amromi Hametzen Menucha Nechona Lekanfi Shechina במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר רקיע מאירים ומסעירים את נשמות חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל ואנשי ארגונים הלוחמים שמסרו את נפשם בהגנת המדינה שהלכו לעולמו בעבור אנו מתפללים בעד הזכרת נשמתם בגן עדן תהי מנוחתם הבנה בעל הרחמים הסתירי בסתר כנפיך לעולמי וצרור בצרור רחמים את נשמתם אדוני ונחלתה וינוחו בשלום על משכבם ונאמר אמן.
We would like to invite Rabbi Breit Krichover of Indianapolis Hebrew Congregation to recite a prayer for the soldiers. Be sure you're in speaker view and drag your cursor to both Rabbi and the words on the large screen.
As we remember those who fell, we honor those who still serve. Mishaberach Avotenu v'Imotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarivka Rachel v'Leah. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless and strengthen the soldiers of the Israeli Defense Forces. May the Holy Blessed One protect and rescue them from every trouble and distress, from every injury and illness, and bring blessing and success to their deeds. Rock and Redeemer of Israel, grant peace and joy to all the inhabitants of the state of Israel, removing from their midst hatred and enmity and jealousy and wickedness, and plant in their hearts love and kinship, peace and friendship. Soon in our days, may the vision of the prophet be fulfilled. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, nor learn war anymore. We say together, Amen.
We are about to hear a song called In Our Kindergarten. The song was written about the difficult and heartbreaking reality of life in Israel, a reality that every few years hits us again and reminds us of the price of living in Israel. Young women and men graduate high school, want to experience the world, but go from playing in playground and experiencing the first love to being soldiers and who have to bravely protect our country. In Israel, the sorrow of the stories of the fallen soldiers accompany us since our time in kindergarten to our adulthood. This song is an attempt to try and deal with the loss of so many of our children, our classmates, our loved ones.
אצלנו בגן יש המון ילדים, את חלקם אני אוהב, את חלקם אני לא מכיר, אבל מי לא שמע על האומץ של רן, הוא הכי מהיר בחול, הוא הכי חזק בגן, אבל יש לו סוד אחד שפחד הוא לגלות, שהוא כל כך מאוהב באחת הילדות. בלילות קרים עם פנס מתחת לשמיכה הם מדברים, והוא מגלה למה היא בשבילו כל עולמו מוגן מתחת לשמיכה. אצלנו בגן יש הרבה חבורות, יש כאלה נחשבים, יש כאלה שפחות, אבל מי לא שמע על קופצי הנדנדות, מריעים להם כפיים, מלמדים אותם לנחות, מורמים על נס הדגל, גאוות כל האזור, רק לפעמים כשהם קופצים רחוק, הם שוכחים לחזור. בלילות קרים עם פנס מתחת לשמיכה הם מדברים, והוא מגלה למה היא בשבילו כל עולמו מוגן מתחת לשמיכה. אצלנו בגן נפרדים בשמחה, כי היום לא ארוך ונפגשים שוב מחר, חוץ מאלה שפתאום לא חוזרים יותר לגן, אמרו לי שהם רק עברו דירה מעבר לענן. אז בלילות קרים עם פנס מתחת לשמיכה הם מדברים, והוא מגלה יש המון ילדים, את חלקם אני אוהב, את חלקם אני לא אכיר.
That's a very powerful song. I'm sure you all felt it. And we're going to go over to another topic. You may have heard of the term IDF lone soldier. These are soldiers that have no family in Israel to support them. They may be a volunteer from abroad, an immigrant, an orphan, or an Israeli from a broken home. There are around 7,000 lone soldiers in the IDF. Indianapolis is proud that over the years there have been, and currently are, quite a few of our youth volunteering in the IDF. The culture in Israel is such that Israeli soldiers spend weekends and holidays at home where their parents provide for all their needs: food, laundry, a warm home, a hug. They enjoy relaxing time with their siblings and their childhood friends. The challenges for a lone soldier start when they leave their base. While Israeli soldiers have their family to return home to, lone soldiers would essentially be left to fend for themselves. For this reason, there are wonderful programs organized where a kibbutz, a moshav, a village, adopts a group of lone soldiers and takes responsibility for them during their 2 or 3 or more years of service. Within the village, families adopt each lone soldier and function as their surrogate family. We are very proud that in our partnership with the Western Galilee, there are kibbutzim that have adopted such groups. Our next video clip is from a former lone soldier, Sharon Goldman, who was hosted in Moshav Regba in our partnership region. Afterwards, we'll do breakout rooms and you'll have an opportunity to meet a few other former lone soldiers and hear their stories and ask them questions. At that point, you might want to start your video if your video is off so everybody can see each other when you're in the room. And now we'll see the video of Sharon Goldman.
My name is Sharon. I'm from Boulder, Colorado. I made Aliyah about 7 years ago and enlisted into the Army as a lone soldier in 2014. I served in the artillery unit as an artillery instructor. So I was basically in charge of training soldiers in basic training and in advanced training how to operate the artillery machinery. And throughout my service, I also got promoted and became a commander of the artillery instructors course. During my service, I lived in a moshav up north called Moshav Regba. I did it through Garin Sabars, which is a program that helps lone soldiers, very much gives them a community. And there I had a really incredible host family. Regarding why I decided to become a lone soldier. So my parents are American, but they did actually meet in Israel and get married in Israel. And I was born here. But when I was 1 year old, we moved back to America. Still, I always had the thought that I was an Israeli citizen. And we grew up in a very Zionistic family, always listening to Israeli music, watching Israeli shows, always following the news, and also marking Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut. And as I went through high school and I had to start thinking about what are the next stages, became clear to me that I want to live in Israel as an adult. And I really felt like the way to do that and to start my adult life in Israel was to do an army service, as pretty much every other Israeli citizen has to do. So I'm really happy I made that choice. Regarding a special experience as a lone soldier, so I already mentioned my incredible host family. During my swearing in ceremony, they actually drove for 7 hours from where they live, which is very much way up north, all the way down south to my army base to be there for my ceremony, which was really incredible because everybody else's families were there. And I was kind of sad that morning, thinking that I wouldn't see any familiar faces. And then my host family came, and that was amazing. Regarding my first experience of Yom HaZikaron in Israel, So something that the IDF does on Yom HaZikaron is they send soldiers to many different cemeteries throughout Israel to kind of pay respect to the families and friends of fallen soldiers who are going there. So I participated in a ceremony there, and it felt very somber and meaningful. And I mostly just felt a lot of respect for the families and friends who were there to honor the soldier who was laid to rest there. I say that it is more different than similar to Memorial Day in the United States. In that the United States, there's a lot more barbecues and sales. In Israel, Yom HaZikaron is very much a sad, serious day. I do think a big part of it is everybody in Israel generally has some sort of a connection to a fallen soldier, some more personally than others, but I just think because it's such a smaller country, you really do feel every loss, or somebody who lost a soldier, so really increases that sense of community on Yom HaZikaron.
Hi, everyone. My name is Debbie Grant. I'm the CEO of the Jewish Federation of Greater Indianapolis, and I hope you all had as an invigorating conversation in your breakout room as we did. I want to give a special thank you to Maya and to Einav and to Michelle and to Maya and Adi and everyone who has participated in making today's commemoration so meaningful. As you may know, Israel's Memorial Day comes the day before Israel's Independence Day. Israel's decision to commemorate the fallen soldiers the day before the Day of Independence was not an easy one, but incredibly symbolic. On this day, we remember those who gave up their lives so we could celebrate this day peacefully. In one of the transition ceremonies between Memorial Day and Independence Day, David Ben-Gurion, the first Prime Minister of Israel, once said, "There is only one drop of consolation. Their lives and death weren't for nothing. And as long as Am Yisrael is alive, he will carry their memory in his heart forever." As we approach the end of today's commemoration, please join me in watching a video clip of the Israeli anthem, Hatikva, taken a few years ago at the Israel Independence Day torch lighting ceremony in Jerusalem. The end of the clip shows fireworks as Memorial Day ends and Independence Day begins. After the anthem, we'll give everyone an opportunity to unmute and to talk for a few minutes, so please stick around, join us for some schmoozing, just like we would in normal times in our Lakin auditorium. Please rise and join us for Hatikva if you are able.
התקווה. המסדר ידגל את נשקו. דגל, צ'ק! לרדת נשקור. אחרי, צק.
Thank you for attending our ceremony tonight. It's especially wonderful, I wanted to say to the Israelis who joined us, families and friends of, and our former Shaliach, Roy Gonen. It's the middle of the night for them, and we love seeing you here. So I'm very glad that you joined. And we hope that you join the nationwide virtual celebration for Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel Independence Day, this Thursday at 7 o'clock. The Jewish Federations of North America have put together a fun event celebrating Israel and sports, Jewish athletes from around the world, Israeli Olympic medalists, Israeli President Reuven Rivlin will be talking, and so much more. At this point, we invite everyone to unmute, an opportunity to talk. You might want to switch your Zoom to gallery view so you can see everyone. Thank you for attending tonight.